Have you heard the phrase money talks? It means large sums of money can give vast amounts of power to a person or group. In the US, politics and that phrase have become infamously intertwined. Here, I am going to shed some light on a particular form of money talk. It's not going to be about the legal forms like bribery of an elected official. Rather, I'm going to talk about the legal kind. Today in the United States, money is involved in nearly every facet of American life, from healthcare to education and everything in between. Unfortunately, one place that money's grasp and influence has already made its way to is in the elections. Corporations and unions have gained the right to assist in the funding of federal election campaigns. These rights essentially equate business and union entities to regular American citizens. The reason this is true today is because of a landmark Supreme Court case, Citizens United v. FEC. Here is some background on the case. In 2008, Citizens United had finished the production of a movie called Hillary, the Movie. The movie was a documentary that heavily critiqued then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. After production had finished, Citizens United had entered talks with DirecTV to broadcast the movie on their on-demand service. To Citizens United's dismay, the Federal Election Commission, or FEC, had rejected the movie from being aired on DirecTV. The FEC had found that premiering the movie would be in violation of Section 203 of the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act of 2002. Section 203 of the BCRA essentially states that during a federal election, corporations, associations, and labor unions are prohibited from using their own money to fund electioneering communications. The FEC definition of electioneering communications is, and I quote, any broadcast, cable, or satellite communication that refers to a clearly identified federal candidate, end quote. Section 203 goes on to prohibit the transmission of any electioneering communication within 60 days of a general election or 30 days of a primary election. Because of that 30-day restriction, Citizens United had been found in violation of the rule. Citizens United, in response, decided to challenge the FEC in the courts. The first Citizens United v. FEC occurred in a U.S. District Court. Citizens United had lost that case. The court had defended Section 203 and cited a previous court case that affirmed the constitutionality of Section 203. That previous court case was McConnell versus FEC at the Supreme Court. After the U.S. District Court loss, Citizens United filed an appeal, and it was granted to a higher court. The Supreme Court then took in the case in 2009, and Citizens United reached the final verdict in 2010. In an ideologically split decision, the vote was 5-4 in favor of Citizens United. The 5 justices siding with Citizens United were conservatives, and the 4 oppositionists were liberals. As a result of the decision, the court had essentially determined that corporations and unions have the same First Amendment rights as citizens. The new interpretation of the First Amendment threatens the validity and integrity of the election process. That may sound a bit dramatic, but the reality is not that far off. To back this, you can look to a research article in the Journal of Electoral Studies. The authors of the article set out to find whether regulatory changes, like the ones made by Citizens United versus FEC, increase the electoral success of a particular party. In their findings, they discovered that according to, quote, strong evidence, end quote, that the new changes, quote, increase the electoral success of candidates, end quote. The authors also found that after the ruling, independent expenditures for political advertising had nearly quadrupled. Because of this, it is clear that these entities jumped to the opportunity to take advantage of these new deregulations. In the conclusion of the article, the authors clear as day states, quote, groups engaging in outside spending should increase the electoral strength of the candidates aligned with the groups experiencing the largest budgetary expansion as a result of the regulatory change. End quote. What the authors mean is that whichever party has the support of the group with deeper pockets, that party is more likely to succeed. Besides the researchers' findings, one can look no further than the opinionated remarks of the 4 justices who opposed the final decision. The justices' host ruling opinion piece was written by the late Justice John Paul Stevens. He went on to state that, quote, our lawmakers have a compelling constitutional basis, if not also a democratic duty, to take measures designed to guard against the potentially deleterious effects of corporate spending in local and national races. End quote. Justice Stevens' remarks serve as a call to action for lawmakers, reminding them that there is a real possibility that these new laws could cause serious issues for elections. I hope you have learned something new about the harm and even greater potential harm derived by the outcome of Citizens United versus FEC. From data and conclusions backed by academic scholars, through thorough research, to the opinion of a rightfully titled constitutional expert and late Supreme Court justice, the consensus is clear, and something needs to change. Otherwise, the voice of the people will continue to lose its influence in our most cherished democratic process, voting.